Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuhu. Bilal Ali Hugh in Islamic Action TV studio, brought to you by Gorilla Minded Productions.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa ta'ala wa barakatuh. My name is Mohammed Solomon, and here I am again, brothers and sisters, with you in Islamic Action TV, and we thank you for tuning in again this week.
And I'm Simon Malsiniak. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. You're watching Islamic Action TV.
Brother, so good to be back. It's been a minute, and the three of us have been able to get back.
Yes.
To do another three the hard way.
Too long.
Too long.
But today, the people are in for a power-packed treat, for a thought-provoking, hopefully, inshallah, something that will lead people to go away and reflect and want to read a book or check something out.
Mashallah.
You mentioned the word Muharram.
Yes.
You mentioned the word mysticism. And I mentioned the word mythology. So we need to look into the reality, mythos, the story as a mythos, but then also what was not. We question as necessarily accurate. We cannot question as followers of Ahlullbayt. We're not going to question Imam Hussein, his greatness, his relevance, his teachings, and his protecting of his grandfather's legacy. But the students of Islam who give account, sometimes they may not be necessarily as accurate as
that is correct.
Logic would suggest. So
that is correct.
Let's jump into it, man. Let's
well, I mean, obviously, we know it's Muharram. We know this is a glory. Well, it's some people it's a glorious month. For other people, it is a month of mourning. We know we're gonna have Shura coming up, and we know we're gonna have this tragedy of Karbala. We know as Muslims, this is very, very tragic, and it shouldn't just be related to just reduced to just a Shia thing. I think it's obviously something that we know. Imam Hussein Islam, his martyrdom was a hack over battle. MashaAllah. This was a man that we know was molded and fashioned and shaped by a master teacher, by a divinely sent prophet and messenger in the midst of the Arabs 1,400 years ago, to raise up people from an ignorant state and put them on, alhamdulillah, create an ummah, a body of Muslims who will be the vanguard for truth, righteousness and freedom and equality on the planet. So Imam Hussein alayhi salam was forged from the love and from the direct intervention of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by sending this Nabi, who as his grandson was able to bring this man up in this right way. So when we saw that, when he came between giving allegiance to evil and to injustice, he was prepared to lay down his life for this teaching. All praise is due to Allah. So I'm honored, obviously, every time we have to speak about Karbala and the event, and I'm honored to help to bring up to today, so we can see in today's world the importance of Imam Hussein's stance for justice, similar to Malcolm X, as we mentioned before.
Yes, because there are some people that will reduce the story to a historical event. It's just a regurgitation. It's just a pulling on heartstrings and pulling on emotions. But it's not a teaching that will invigorate or inform people in a contemporary or a futuristic way of how do Muslims address the challenges in the world. What say you, Brother Simon? What say you?
Yeah, I mean, I just pick up Bilal on what you said about the emotions of it. I think there is a condition called what I would call emotional blindness. So there are aspects of, well, not just Karbala. I mean, you can see it in other ways of life as well. For example, we've been talking about reparations. Reparations, for, just to digress a moment, but reparations for slavery, which have been demanded by Jamaica, the English government. When you get people jumping on the bandwagon saying, "Yeah, isn't this a great idea? England need to pay for what they did," not stepping back and thinking, well, okay, but who would this money be going to? Would it be going to the average Joe in Peckham or Hackney or something? Somebody actually deserves it as a descendant of an oppressed slave. But people seem to be blinded by the word slavery, the word black slavery. So it's these things that stick in people's minds and stop them from thinking rationally sometimes. And unfortunately, when it comes to emotive words like Karbala, Ashura, people tend to lose sight, I think, and don't approach the issue as critically as I think they ought to. And I think that can be very dangerous in some respects.
Totally agree.
We were just speaking before we came on air about how we know about the history of Karbala, and one of the ways we know it is, and we're told it, by Bisha, this poet who was approached by, I think it was Imam Zain al-Abidin, who said, you know, you need to go out and spread the word and tell them what happened in Karbala, even though he wasn't a witness to it.
Yes.
You need to create these tales
Yes.
to communicate the message. So even from that standpoint, you're starting to ask the question, so how historically reliable is the stuff we hear each?
If you're employing a poet to write factual history,
who wasn't there.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not going to be
poetry's emotional, isn't it? Not necessarily like critical analysis.
Yeah.
Or even deeper than that, did the Imam actually
ask him to do it?
Yeah.
You can ask
allegedly.
So we could say to be safe, we don't attribute anything to the Imam that he may not have said. We say that records suggest, or it's been reported that.
Yeah,
traditions narrate.
Traditions narrate that Imam Zayn.
Yeah, traditions narrate.
So we start getting this slippage and these inconsistencies, and you know, I'm sure we've all got examples we can give, but I mean, one example I would give is Imam Hussein's daughter, when she's in captivity in Sham, she cries for her father. No, Syria Ruqayya.
Oh yeah, you mean Ruqayya.
So she's in captivity with Sayyidah Zayd al-Zainab, the fourth Imam. They're trying to comfort her. She cries, and Yazid sends down allegedly sends down Imam Hussein's head on a plate.
Yeah. When
she picks it up, cradles it, and then expires.
From the grief.
From grief.
Yes.
And then, but you step back and think, well, hang on a minute. As this head was being brought towards her, did the Ahlullbayt not try to protect her or stop this from happening, or try and console her, or try and step in the way? We don't hear any of that. And that's part of what I call the emotional blindness of it. So this shocking imagery of a decapitated head being brought towards you, you focus on that rather than what might have actually occurred.
Yes.
And it's things like that which, you know, undermine for me the status of the Ahlullbayt. I'm not saying it didn't happen. What I'm saying is it's something we ought to question and react critically towards.
Yes, I totally agree with that. I mean, many of you may have noticed that I have my laptop on my lap, funnily enough. But I think when we were speaking about this particular topic about the mysticism and the myths around Muharram, I think one of the most pronounced and one of the most precise and something with so much pedagogy I found was the scholarly works of that sister Amina Inouis. Indeed. I found this sister had actually helped to lance a boil that is in the body politic of the Shia Muslims. She was touching on something around
she touched on something.
Oh, she touched on something, all right. And this sister is a so-called white Caucasian sister. But I believe this sister, because she stands for truth, colour is irrelevant. It is the justice in which she was putting out in a scholarly academic journal. Now I actually have a copy, or at least the abstract, which I'd like, if you permit me to just read briefly the abstract, if I have your permission, brothers.
Oh, please do.
Now, the abstract, the actual paper is entitled Introduction, Sacred History and Social Norms in Shia Ritual Practice.
In what?
Shia Ritual Practice. Now, in the abstract she says, this paper explores how Shia sacred history and hagiography communicate social norms about race. It problematizes the characterization of Jawan ibn Huway in the Karbala narrative as the African slave at the Battle of Karbala, which was from 680 AD to 61 AH.
61 years after that.
60 years after the Hajj, Hijrah. And it traces the evolution of a racialized portrayal of him in Shia texts. So as we know, this Jawan is supposed to be one of the people that sacrificed their life at Karbala. But there's also this text.
Is Black John, yeah?
Black John.
Colloquially,
Black John, yeah. Why is colour relevant? We're going to touch on the colour because it's relevant again.
It's an important point.
Yes, important point to remember. And maybe when we touch on something that happened in the UK about a particular individual, mention, like what she said and what allegedly she said on a bus.
No, we've spoken about before.
We're going to get into that. But we can see there's what she's implying here is Amina Inouis is a racialization around a character and how that impacts on this mythology and this mysticism around Karbala and Ashura. So carry on. It also raises the question of whether Jaun ibn Huwayt actually existed, or whether he was a racialized construction built upon the stereotype of an African slave who entered the communal memory later. It contrasts the othering of Jaun through his Africanness against the common perception of an Arabo-Iranian norm, reinforced through drawings of the 12 Imams with Arab or Iranian features. This norm is then challenged through presenting the Imams in an ethnic image which reflects their racial backgrounds, as supported in Shia narrations, to create cognitive dissonance and explore subconscious assumptions.
What kind of assumptions? What type of assumptions?
Subconscious assumptions.
So, and the modern term for that is unconscious.
That's right, brother. About race and divine authority in contemporary Shiaism. Pick up on that now, brother. Can we now unpick that?
So to summarise, what the article you think you're trying to communicate is the idea that by portraying a black man or by inserting a black figure into Karbala, it flips the racial profile of the other companions.
Yes. It reinforces their whiteness.
Or not, yes.
Yeah.
Or not the case, maybe.
Or not the case, well, it wasn't even white. But the idea is that.
But that's what she mentions. I think when you get the Arab or Iranian, because the concept of Arab or now is obviously like Syria or
exactly. Egypt,
Lebanon, these very lighter people.
Yes. But when
you think of the original people who Imam Hussein is descended, the Islam who is descended from, and you're talking about the Durham people and the
Sudanese,
the Egyptian people, and they be the descendant of Hagar through the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You think, and as people like Dr. Wezi Muhammad would speak about, or J.A. Rogers would speak about, or the works of Ivan Sertima would speak about, or Renoko Rashidi would speak about, they speak about a Afrocoid or dark-skinned, woolly-haired Arab.
Yes.
But if you place John as the black guy that kind of walked into the wrong prayer room, then you're unconsciously saying everybody else was white or extremely light-skinned.
Yes. Yeah. And so I believe that if we come to conclusions like this about the myths surrounding an individual who may not even have existed, then what other myths of of Karbala are we now being fed? When we actually acknowledge the fixture of Allah's put in us and not become weaver, which is this nominal term, this problematic term, but when we accept and we understand the fixture of our deen, and we say, we're Muslim and we want to expand upon that, we are now being we could be being tell a lie. We could be given myths on things. For example, when do we accept horses to talk? In the narrative, there is a horse, man Hussein's horse, alayhi salam. He comes back from the battlefield. Is it Ruqayya again, I believe? And she's asking, where's my father? And the horse now manages to speak. It has a vocabulary. I've been to Karbala. We've been to Karbala. We've seen it's an open plain. Quite clearly you can see if the father was martyred. Yeah. And plus if it was written thus, or in the hadith claim, the sand in the jar turned blood red, knowing he would, indicating that Imam Prophet said Hussein would be killed. And also, if we read in the Bible, it says that a descendant of Ishmael shall die in the Euphrates, his blood shall run in the Euphrates. So if something is a common knowledge, why would Ruqayya, who's born in this divine household, not know what happened to her father? Why would she be shocked? It's a bit similar to the Christian narrative.
My personal take on that, and my analysis of the talking horse thing is
I don't think the talking head that travelled for 10 days, disembodied heads that speak.
Quite. But I mean, if we take it back to the Quran, I can't remember which chapter it is, but you have things like the talking ants, the talking hoopers.
Yes, the
Quran.
Yes.
And if you and the problem there is taking those things literally and saying yes, these animals actually spoke Arabic. This is language used, rather than thinking, well, actually no, it was actually understanding. Prophets were able to understand
exactly the ant. It wasn't Arabic
how they formed colonies,
exactly, yes,
and how they sort of interacted amongst each other.
Yes.
Well, actually understanding them speaking Arabic, which they obviously were not.
Yeah.
So that contaminates the narratives which follow Islam. That's my personal view. Is that it then spirals out of control, and then you get these narratives like that, like you just mentioned.
Yes.
The
talking horse. Imam Hussein Islam, when this arm was chopped off, the arm was still fighting on the floor. Then his arm was chopped, the other arm was fighting, and he had a sword in his mouth, and he was doing this. It's not like Monty Python. There's a scene in Monty Python with Black Knight, I believe, what's it in the Holy Grail, and he chops off one arm, and then he starts fighting. He says, "Come on, we can still fight." So he makes, I believe, as we touched on, he makes kind of a mockery, I believe, of an event in history which it was a clear line between Haq and Batil. You supported the Imam Hussein Islam, you're on the side of Haq. You supported Yazid and his hordes, then you're on the side of anti-Islam and evil. It's simple and munkar.
But also it ramps up the emotional side, like I was saying earlier.
Why are you crying?
But it's
it's hysteria, isn't it? It's mass hypnotism. It's group hysteria. It's something that Goebbels probably would have been happy about, and Hitler and Stalin, using the masses.
I'm thinking of it in a certain way where it's like there is a history, but then there is poetic license and embellishment. But then what that does is that the people who may have embellished may have had an intention that was good. But what it suggests is that it may make some people who reflect on that history have questions about it, or put it aside as well, because they're listening to the poetic side of it and they're not getting into the facts and the deep mysticism and the deep message of what was taking place.
I see your point, but that's why I mentioned the point about the Quran. And if you're saying that Huku spoke Arabic, then you're trying to Arabize the Quran. You're trying to deny its universality. So the Quran is all about Arabic. It's all about Arabs. It's all about a particular race. Without to widen it out.
The universal message
universal
language of the Quran.
Universal, rather than just the Arab language of the Quran.
Yes, I totally agree. I mean, I have to emphasize
the Arab language, universal message.
Yeah.
Yes.
Although I take your point that they may have good intentions, I think that there is a certain strand to this which may be a bit more sectarian or ethnic in nature. Yeah.
I'll totally agree with that, because I mean, I know we as I said, been to Iraq, been to Karbala, we've and being told all the myths around it. But this is allegedly a holy area, a holy place. Time we was there, I remember trying to do salat, trying to pray, and these people with parades, playing music and frivolity, and almost losing the essence of what this thing is about. Almost turning Karbala. We've been given messages about the minute more people go to Karbala than go to Hajj, even. Or if you go to Karbala. It is better than doing 100 Hajjis, accepted Hajjis. So we can see this mythology building. We can see people get away from the facts.
We know Hajj is mandatory in the Quran.
Yes, but when you have people dressed up in crocodile suits, people dressed up in lion suits, and chains around their necks, it kind of makes the whole thing. What's the word I can find? But it kind of cheapens the whole thing.
Well, I wanted to inject this in the conversation just to get your thoughts and reflections. The fact is that when you speak about the Hajj, when you speak about the Salah, when you speak about fasting in the holy month of Ramadan, and things of this nature which form the roots of Islam or the pillars of Islam, they're clearly outlined in the Quran. We know they are in the Sunnah. We're told to these are the things that purify us and help us on our journey as human beings, both spiritually and on a worldly level. Not making Karbala irrelevant, but it's not canonized, is it? It's not a canonized series of prescribed rituals.
Exactly.
So it's a very culturalized expression. So what we're seeing in the Middle East, or what we see where people who have come to this country from those countries in Southeast Asia, from the so-called Middle East, they've brought versions of their expression of Karbala.
That's correct.
Not a problem, but it becomes a problem when people say, so you're not going to the mosque tonight, you're doing it 10 nights, like it's mandatory, like you're not fasting.
You're not going to walk, you're not going to walk from Karbala.
This is man-made stuff. It's different people's expression.
Yes.
And I think if particularly you don't want to be cultured as an African Caribbean person, I don't be culturated.
No, exactly.
I think that's your point. There is a certain pressure now to attend, to do something on the first 10 nights, or to get together in a community, which is fine if you want to do
It's not a bad
that.
thing, but
reflect yourself.
Why are people saying it like it's
canonized?
Not to make you feel bad if you don't do it.
Yeah. I think it's a bit similar with look. Group thing. First of all, look, we are Shia ourselves. We are Ahlullbayt followers ourselves. So we're not here to bash the followers of the Ahlullbayt.
No.
And we're not here to rip apart some of the traditions and some of the cultural aspirations and interpretations they have. No, that's not what we're doing. But we're saying there needs to be a critical analysis.
People need to step back.
A step back, and that's right. Remove so much the emotion and look at critically what's happening, because we're being frog matched into some type of canonization or some type of groupthink about particular events that we are open to interpret how we feel we want to interpret it. Particularly if we're in the UK, here in London, you know, and we've got our own particular culture we want to bring. Why can't we?
And problems and questions that we need to use the sacred history of the Imam to help us address, to come up with a hikmah, to get a wisdom and understanding and insight to address those problems. Not problems that happened 200 years ago, another part of the world, or 300 years ago, another part of the world from that.
And some of these people are there, monopoly on it.
Yeah.
I mean, Sai, you was mentioning earlier about even on the walk to Karbala, it becomes this thing of yourself, you know, like, instead of being altruistic now, it's becoming something almost like a commercialized thing to sort of feed the pilgrims and, you know.
Yeah. I mean, it's there seems to be a business behind it, well, as I say, we're not dissing or trying to disrespect people who go, but I think you need to think, well, you know, it's not a mandatory walk. You don't need to do this. It's not prescribed. It's not so you can't really compare the two. Like some people try to do it.
That's outrageous.
Yeah, I saw a video saying that more people visit or attend, you know, at the Arba'in commemoration and they do Hajj. I'm not comfortable. I mean, maybe a mathematical fact, but I'm not comfortable when people. I don't. What's the inference of that? What are you suggesting when you say?
I think this is why
that makes me feel uncomfortable as a Muslim.
And what I didn't like also was this competition thing going on. You know, when we had this stampede recently in Saudi Arabia, he said, "Oh, this doesn't happen in Muharram. So now, Karbala take care. Everybody nicely. We don't have the Saudis doing that.
No.
We're not like the Saudis who."
This is the thing as well, because we get caught up in these sectarian divisions
and geopolitical
machinations.
Games.
Yes, these machinations that these people try to put out on us, you know. And I think it's important. I mean, we know in Pakistan, for example, they bomb Ashura parades. They actually murder Shiites in these countries, and it's horrific what they do and completely evil. But sometimes, maybe the narrative that comes out from these groups, you know, if you're so-called Ahlul Sunnah or Jama'at, and you're reading about a horse talking. You're reading about Imam Hussein's head travelling for days and days and still speaking to Yazid and speaking to people as it's travelling around. You start thinking, well, maybe these people are putting these individuals, these Imams, on a level perhaps they don't need to be on. And when you go Hajj, you go Labbaik Allahumma Labbaik. These people are saying Labbaik Ya Hussein, Labbaik Ya Hussein.
I don't understand.
So it can create unnecessary fitna, and then we now who now embrace the deen, we're getting the backlash of that.
It's like I say, we are creating our own fitna. If we tell the stories in the wrong way, if we can't think critically about whether we're portraying the Ahlullbayt in the right way, then is it any surprise when Sunnis say, well, they can't be that perfect, can they? Why are you looking up to these people? They can't even protect their own.
There you go.
So we are, you know, we're hoisting on our own petards. We're the authors of our own problems.
Yes.
If we fail to stand back.
Exactly. Why would we care? Not exactly. You know.
Yeah.
Where was the men around? Where was the people to defend it?
Do you know what's also one of the things that I find food for thought, but quite troubling to some respect, is that when you speak to many people who are followers of Ahlullbayt and you want to question them and you say, let's explore the existence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the creator of the heavens and the earth. So yes, there's an interesting argument for that. If you approach them, I've seen people who are non-Muslims say, but how can you prove Muhammad was a prophet? Especially one of this. And they say, yes, but if you look in the Bible, it talks about the comfort. And they've got argumentation, logical, rational, intellectual argumentation to prove certain points. Talk about the Day of Judgment. These things, the prayer, these fundamental essential ingredients of Islam. And people tend to be sober-minded in their argumentation. If you question anything or discuss anything that's not the quote-unquote mainstream narrative of what happened at Karbala or Ashura, or you just don't go along with the group thing, you see another intoxicated with anger type of side of some of the brothers come out, and I want to know what's going on. If somebody can question Allah's existence and you're all right with it as a Muslim and you can be rational, the Prophet, the Day of Judgment, the Salah, the Hajj, all these different things, but then somebody wants to talk to you about Karbala and some of the emotionalism that's been injected into the story, and you lose your mind. You lose your mind. You lose your dignity.
Yeah.
What's going on?
Well, I think it boils down to this emotional blindness. I mean, it's like, you know, the Holocaust. You know, if you question the Holocaust, I'm not saying people should question the Holocaust, but if you question it, it's anti-Semitism, it's anti-Jew. It sort of gets spirals out of control because of the emotional.
So you can't even question Zionism, can you, without being anti-Jew?
Yes, if you question the existence of Israel, you're a Holocaust. So there's this mentality in people that which can't separate out these concepts and sort of work your way through them and analyse them.
I think, is it because it's so wrapped up psychologically, there's so much psychological investment? Like, for example, you got emotional investment. For example, you got this whole clan of Sayyids, for example, and the Sayyids have put these hadith allegedly say that, you know, for them to keep them in work, you've got to give them from your khums, from money that that from your work, from your taxes, you've got to give money towards these people. So it's like there's an investment in a clan of a group of people to continually keep some myths alive, even though intellectually and logically they're now becoming irrational and emotive, but they bear no real resemblance to the people. But you continue to do it because you're feeding a narrative and you're feeding a group of people and you're feeding almost an exploitative status, or people who are benefiting from it. So people can't separate the emotion. So any more than say the slave masters, when we wanted to end slavery, they didn't want that to happen. They're gonna fight for their thing, isn't they? They're gonna fight. Someone's gonna fight for that. America's not gonna just let people, undermine their geopolitical positions. Yeah. They're gonna fight for what they want, isn't it? So maybe that's what we're seeing, you know. But I think that we have a right. Yes, we may not have the ijazah. Yes, we may not be scholars of highest eminence, and my name isn't, whatever.
I'm no Grand Mufti.
Yeah.
I'm
but have we not got a right?
To ask a
Can't
question.
we ask a question? Can't we question it? Can't we even say, well, what's going on here? If I'm in a room and some man take off the light on me, a man start bawling next to me in the room, because I ain't crying with the rest of them, man, something's wrong with me. But statements like, if you don't cry when you hear man was saying a Karbala, you deserve to have your head cut off as well, or you're just like the people that killed him. This is the way these people speak.
And that's the danger. It's not at that point, but it could get to that point.
Yes.
Couldn't it? Where you're sort of ostracised because of the way you...
You're not crying in a room.
Exactly. But, like we're doing now, we're just remembering in our own way.
Yes, yeah.
Just bringing back to the article, I know that the time is moving on. I'm going to make the best use of time. And I just want to bring back the racial othering. And back to the article. I remember reading some of the feedback online that the sister received, because she put images across of the 12 imams based on their genealogy, and this person's mum was from this particular part of Africa, or this person's mum was from that particular part of Africa, Nubian stock, Afrocoid stock, that they would have looked like a variety of African peoples.
Yes.
So she did her own artist impression, and the vitriol she received for that, although that would be more historically accurate. So there is a anti...
Where can I find that, brother?
It's that actually is online.
The was a discussion group, is there?
Yeah. But it's online. You can find the evidence on it. If it's still inside the space out there somewhere, it's online. And the sister also done a presentation. Right. But it shows levels, shameful levels. I'm embarrassed to really say, of anti-African sentiments. So it's almost as if factually, as Shia believe, the imams are these individuals of impeccable character and noble heritage. Their colour doesn't become relevant. It's a fact that they had certain colour, they were people of Afrocoid descent. But their colour isn't really relevant because they're not picked, as one sheikh said, they weren't picked because of their Africanness, they're picked because of their taqwa.
Yes.
You want to follow them as symbols of taqwa, but for their Africanness to be a part of it, there's a kind of
collective,
a collective, not just incongruence, but you used the term before, but this dissidence, this cognitive dissonance. So because of my impression of Afrocoid people and African heritage people and Africans is so lowly, and this whole abid foolishness that they're keeping up, then you can't look to the role models whose mothers were African, so they too look like their mama. You got a problem in it.
Yeah, because I mean, I heard there was a play in which went to play Black John.
You got there.
It was the Shiites got us to play in Yeah, and like some cool minstrel show, the Asians, instead of getting a black actor, blacked up themselves.
Just that in the 21st century. No, that didn't happen. That couldn't happen.
Bro, this happened
in the 21st century.
In cosmopolitan London, England, UK.
Good Lord.
Which is like not, they say,
where's Trevor Phillips' number? Where's my phone? Where's Lee?
It's actually
Lee and the rest of the race.
21st century, where are they? They're going to go into Minka. Right? And basically, one black brother, a scholar, he was so outraged that he actually stopped the whole place and said, this is outrageous, it's scandalous. How dare you, you know what I mean, to portray a black individual who may not even have existed, black up yourself like some black and white minstrel show, singing the what is it, the face down rich, that's all that long, do that, some type of black minstrel, but yet, he nearly got attacked and he nearly got beaten mercilessly by these people. I would be surprised if his tongue would have been cut out of his head and put in an envelope and sent to Karbala. The way the audience mercilessly tried to manhandle this brother, who even is a scholar. But that he was a scholar, it was irrelevant. He was a black man, right? And he's of the same level as John. This is the reality that we're dealing with.
So maybe it tells you psychologically where John came from, or John's blackness
came from,
and the whole
where's psychologically coming from? Yes, because it's disdain. I mean, you're aware that many of some of my lectures I've read some of these hadith attributed to Imam alayhi salam, the impeccable Imam. These lies in Al-Kafi, which we know are completely fabrications, that say that the black man is one of the most ugliest men on the planet, and he's a beast, and we're not to marry amongst the black man. So the fact that these things exist and they're written of in the scripture, and then you got even things in, I believe, by Ibn Taymiyyah within Sunni sources, in which it says, if you said the Prophet Muhammad was a black man, you should kill him. Why would you say if they said the Prophet Muhammad is black, you should kill him? This is ridiculous. Like saying if I said David Cameron is white, you should kill him. Because obviously he must be white. So these sources in Sunni and Shia, and this denigration of the black man, and this Black John thing, he's just a symbolic, it happened to be in the Shia, but it's a symbolic feeling of inferiority among certain people who, when they embraced Islam, notwithstood the actual racial characteristics of these particular eminent people, like the Sahaba and like the prophets and the Imams, and in order, because they wanted to have some place in it, had to change their colour. The similar as the Europeans when they went to Egypt, broke off the noses of the sphinxes, broke off the noses of all of the of the statues, and they started saying that these Egyptians are white.
Same dynamic at play.
Yes.
Same dynamic.
So the myths goes right. So we see, once you create a myth of a narrative, it just spills not only with the Black John thing, but it spills all through Muharram, all through into what we see now. People cutting themselves in Ashura, like actually slicing their backs. Even though Ayatollah Khomeini said this is forbidden. He said this is forbidden. You know, so there are scholars who said you shouldn't cut yourself.
Don't
you go to places,
don't lose
not in public. At least not in public. But these people slice themselves up, right? Based on mythologies, or I want to be like Hussein.
Because
if you're like Hussein,
there's nothing in the Quran or the Hadith that would suggest that it's asking you to do that.
No.
So to even question why you do that, you shouldn't lose your life. If you defended it, you should be able to argue with another person. Two people can debate and discuss in a reasonable fashion, but you shouldn't become intoxicated with anger.
But this brings mockery.
If you're trying to represent something that is not in the Quran or not in the recorded Sunnah.
This brings mockery to
talk about it.
Ahlullbayt. It brings mockery. I see people laughing about it. There's videos online of Imam jumping off of the mimbar and swinging from the light fan, pulling off the turban and surfing into the crowd.
No, I want to take this a step deeper. People, they're brothers, that would get angry at you for saying that. Not angry at the person for doing that off-key action. But angry at you.
Or even the statement about what allegedly to Ali.
So the anger they falsely attribute a lie to the Imam, and they falsely make a statement about ethnicity of the Prophet. You raise that issue, and people will condemn you.
That's correct.
Okay, I'm alright if they want to condemn.
Playing the man rather than the bull.
Exactly, because I'm alright with them condemning you if they're willing to. If they want to repudiate you.
Exactly.
But if they repudiate the publisher, right, the people who compiled it, the proofreaders, right, the people who brought it in on the plane, the people who put it on the shelf. If you repudiate all of them, I say repudiate you too.
Exactly.
But they're silent about them, but you're the bad guy. Something ain't right. young lady said dance so quick. Mama, something alright
It's
tonight?
alright now.
Okay.
What you say, you say?
Yeah, it's creating it's a fire in the creating a fire in the corner of the room is this distraction thing, and it's born again of this emotional blindness, this very narrow sectarian way of looking at these traditions and the way they present it to us.
Emotional blindness.
Emotional blindness. That's the theme for.
I think so. What would be the solution then, brothers? What do you think we could leave the viewers with in terms of how to approach Ashura, Karbala, the whole idea of Imam Hussein's actual martyrdom? What is practical ways where they may not, so they don't themselves fall and get sucked into the canonization so much? Particularly those who embrace the deen.
People just need to be courageous and just step back, take a step back and look at it from the outside and say, okay, I don't need to accept everything you've told me. Let me look at it myself, let me look at it objectively, calmly, rationally, and see if I can make sense of it and put it together. And that's the only way I think we're going to make progress.
I think I would agree. I would say that we have to employ critical thinking always. We have to use the Quran and the Sunnah as a gauge, as a gauge. And
I think Sister Amina was very brave. I think
very extremely courageous effort.
Very courageous
and I think that the lesson from Imam Hussein alayhi salam is that speak the truth, be willing to speak the truth, willing to question something, regardless of the possible negative backlash. Because if you're standing on truth and you're standing for principle,
for the haqq,
if you're standing for the haqq, then don't capitulate, don't punk out, don't become sissified and wimpified when you're dealing with truth. When you're dealing with Allah's business, you're dealing with truth. Don't joke with that truth and go along with the group thing, because then you're missing the message of Karbala. Forgetting all the story and the fanciful words and all the nice gestures and the professionalism of the storytellers. What is the message? Truth. Stand up for truth.
I totally agree with you, and I think those same people who do the kinizir, the chopping and everything. If you're going to Ashura, going to Karbala, if you're walking to Karbala, if you're going to give your salams to the imams, and you know he was about truth, then don't come back home and be racist in your shops. Don't come back home and feed the self-denigration and self-hatred of black men and black women who feel they need to stitch somebody else's hair in their head. You know it's wrong to sell them this type of stuff. You know they got issues of how they feel about themselves, but you're feeding and exploiting their self-hatred. So don't come back and feed them this stuff. Don't come back and say, "Oh, my daughter can't marry this person because he's black or white." Right? Don't come back and don't come back. If you're really for truth and justice, if you want to live this man live, cutting yourself ain't about showing that. Cutting yourself ain't helping him.
Racism in your heart.
Yes. Oh, come on now. Come on now. Speak on that. Yeah, cut out. You got to cut some things out. He's have to take that. Bleed out on that.
Yeah.
Bleed out on that. You know what I mean? Indeed. I don't be picking on people like ourselves who think, who do they think they are? They just come Muslim the other day. They can't be questioning my sheikh this, my sheikh that. But what has your sheikh got you? Nowhere. Your sheikh ain't got and help you to do anything apart from benefit from the economic benefits of this country. But then you are not helping the spiritual revival, man. You're not helping to uplift and bring the community together. Because everybody's on the only old.
But like I say, you're prepared to complain when people attack you, people attack your faith.
Yes, exactly.
I'm prepared to say that you're,
Islamophobia is me.
Yeah, but am I the author of my own misfortune?
Yes,
is what I believe, what I put out there, is that helping me?
Exactly.
Is it not helping me?
Yes.
It's been a pleasure, but the time has moved so quickly.
We could talk all night.
We could talk all night, but we've run out of time. We thank you for staying with us for the duration of this program. We hope that we didn't offend, but if we provoked you, at least hope that you were provoked to think critically. Don't kill the messenger.
So thank you, brothers and sisters. Thank you for watching. We hope to see you again. Remember to subscribe to Islamic Action TV. Write in, email us. Everything's there in the comments page. And as I greet you in peace, I leave you in peace. From me, Muhammad Solomon. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Have a safe Muharram.